Hello.
Hello.
Hello. We are back again at the East Africa Bootcamp, and we've had quite an interesting series. We've had a welcome address, we've had introduction to blockchain and its use cases. We've also had a presentation around introduction to artificial intelligence, and as I explained earlier, that with our theme today is women in tech, the techpreneurship. So we need to really combine the two. How do we combine technology with entrepreneurship? And that is why we're going to have our next session, which is going to be about entrepreneurship. We're going to learn how we can be entrepreneurs and relate it to technology. Our presentation is going to be done by MaryMagdalelene. She's Pan-African Tech Foundation in Eritrea. You're welcome.
Good morning, Lydia. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're actually connected this time and day. It's rare that you can just start a meeting and say good morning, right? We all connected globally. Welcome to Pan-African Tech Foundation. My name is MaryMagdalene, and today, as Claire mentioned, we will be speaking about entrepreneurship, but especially what does it mean to be an entrepreneur? What does it take to be a successful entrepreneur within Africa, but also globally? And we will try to touch base everything about entrepreneurship. So
sorry, MaryMagdalene, may you turn on your video, please?
Oh, sorry.
We would like to see you.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. So we'll be speaking about the in and outs of entrepreneurship, right? You've seen what it means. You've always you've had a great idea about AI intelligence and blockchain, but what does entrepreneurship means within Africa, and especially for African women? As the Forbes have already said, African women are the hope of the continent. And the reason, and the main reason for that, is African women create businesses at a faster rate than anywhere else in the world, accounting for almost 1/3 of all businesses on the continent. These women are reviving economy, creating jobs, empowering other women and girls, and uplifting our entire communities. And they do this with the face of enormous inequity, right? And not only do they lack of control over asset, and which influences access to capital, but they typically choose traditional female business sector that are less likely to scale, and they lack access to relevant training. So even though as per the UNDP, and we'll see this on my next slides, over $95 billion on average costs all sub-Saharan African due to gender inequality. And women play a vital role. As we know, all our family, our mothers, they always have this side hustle, right? Like, you will never meet an African woman without any kind of business on the side, whether she works 9 to 5 or anything. So what does entrepreneurship mean, right? So today we will cover what entrepreneurship is, small businesses, business planning, product services concept, market, venture development, organizing and financing your entrepreneur, whatever sector you want to do entrepreneurship or create a problem or solve a problem. So what is entrepreneurship and enterprise, right? Entrepreneurship is just like management. It doesn't have a single definition. An entrepreneur is a person who's action-oriented, highly motivated, takes a risk, and achieve goals, right? It's a person who establishes his own or her own business with the intention of making a profit. And an entrepreneur is also a person who provide capital without taking active part in leading or rolling an enterprise. So you can be an investor and call yourself an entrepreneur, okay? An entrepreneur is one of who innovates, raise money, assemble input, choose, manage, and set the organization growing. So can you be an entrepreneur without solving a problem? No. The answer is no. Entrepreneurship and solving a problem goes hand in hand, right? So what does entrepreneurship entitle then? What do you have to have in order to call yourself entrepreneur, but also as a problem solving, right? You'll need to have a vision. You'll need to have it needs to be packed up with innovation, right? Creating new businesses or new ideas of solving on how you will be able to solve that typical problem. And you always need to understand there is a risk bearing coming with that problem solving that you're trying to get, or the market you're trying to get. But not only that, so you have identified a problem, you have an innovation way of tackling that problem, whether it's technology, whether it's traditional market. But then how do you organize yourself? How do you organize your different steps within that entrepreneurship spectrum in order to make it, in order for you to become a successful entrepreneur or lead or manage a company? So, like I said, entrepreneurship doesn't have one single definition, right? So entrepreneur is a person, while entrepreneurship is the process of handling that step-by-step management of your business that you are trying to, or the problem that you're trying to solve. All right. Can anybody understand me? If you guys have any questions, please feel free to put it on the chat. If you can hear me properly, I'd like to know your reactions. Amazing. So let's go a little bit back to when and how did entrepreneurship started, right? So during the ancient period of the world, entrepreneurs was used to refer to a person managing large commercial projects through the resources provided to him. And in the 19th century, a person who has single-handed a contractual agreement with the government to provide stipulated products or to perform services was considered as an entrepreneur. But with the emergence of technology, right? And start a business. Can you guys see me? All right, cool. Let me know if you guys want to. I don't know why it stopped sharing the screen. Let me try to share my screen again, in case you guys want to see the notes. Awesome. So where we were. Cool. So with the emergence of technology, it's much easier to call and to do entrepreneurship at a greater scale, because of obviously it's much easier to connect with the internet. It's much easier to find resources. It's much easier to learn the ins and outs of entrepreneurship, and you're more likely to find more clients online than you were before. So I'll give you an example. Let's say an Eritrean girl from the city of Asmara, who is actually very good at handcrafts, have the option and opportunity to sell her products online globally because of technology, right? She have access to internet, she have access. Thanks, Hussein. I have started sharing. Can you guys see my screen now? Please give me thumbs up if you can see. All right, cool. So it's much easier for her to have an access to internet, have an access to different kind of clients. So basically, maybe before the emerging of technology and this internet access to access that she might have now, it might have been super hard for her to make business, to get clients, to sell her products locally. But with the help of technology, she's able to set up her own website. She's able to sell her products globally, and she's able to actually sell her products and get hard currency that would enable her to grow her business much more, right? So back to entrepreneurship, right? What does it entitle, right? And why entrepreneurship? Why is it important in a community? So entrepreneurship brings capital to the economy, right? It's so much easier. It improves in per capita income. So if a woman is able to sell stuff from her house. She'll have more time to look after her family. She'll be financially independent, right? So in that way, the economy starts to move, and she's contributing directly to the economy. She's creating jobs. So we've already addressed that. It improves the living standard of a certain family, a community, and a country. It balances regional development, economic independence, innovation, and etc. Right? So what do you have to become in order for yourself to call an entrepreneur? Right? You have to be like solving a problem. You can't call yourself an entrepreneur and to have a certain problem that you are going to identify. What is the key problem that you're trying to address? Why is it important? What are your customer segments? So who are your target audience? Who are you planning to sell your idea or product or the service that you're trying to sell within your economy? What is, have you already tested the market that you are trying to approach? Who are your key partners? Who are your key activities? What are your key activities? What kind of customer relationship are you going to have? And what type of resources are you going to use to utilize and make this available to your customers? And what distribution channels are you going to use? So, and what is your cost structure and revenue stream? So I'll give you an example. Within Desktop TV, when I was creating the Mary Show, I have identified a certain problem, and that was the misrepresentation of Africa and Africans in the Western media, and how. So that is the problem, right? So let's say you want to call yourself an entrepreneur, and you want to have and create a certain business, or you want to give it could be product or service. So let's stick with product or service. So with me, it's a service, right? It's a media company, and we're selling our services through media, right? But let's say within Desta, because it's a global entity, we have a beauty line called Desta Beauty. And in Desta Beauty, we sell products. So when we identify the problem of misrepresentation, again, of different kind of beauty in the beauty industry, we find out. So we just said, like, especially personally me, I identified that problem of misrepresentation of Eritrean names, and I came up with the Desta Beauty skincare products, where people like myself and within my community will be able to trust and use the different products that I use for myself, and obviously I want them to use. So by that, I have identified the main problem, right? Then I know the product or the service I'm going to bring to the table. Later on, I go to how do I identify the customer segment mapping? So who are my customers? Is this only women? Is it women from certain age or demographics? And what is who are my key partners? So these are the different stages. I mean, we wouldn't be able to address all of them in this 1 hour. So I'm just going to go on a high level. And if anyone have a question, you guys can just drop it and I'll try to answer your questions. So entrepreneurship is all about solving problems through innovation, right? So the areas of innovation can differ. So it could be new product, new service, new production techniques, new way of delivering products or services, new operation practices. It could be a means of informing the customer about the new product, new means of managing relationships. It can really vary from different sector to different sectors. So you have identified a problem, you have identified a way of innovation on how to solve that problem, but what about how you're going to address and connect with your customers? And the main tool on this is market research. So how are you going to do your market research analysis, right? And what is market research? It's a process of data may be available from different resources, and market research may be applied to any aspect of marketing that requires information to aid decision making on your business. And it's a research finding and implementation must be communicated to the appropriate decision making based on your market research. So when I was looking and trying to solve the problem of misrepresentation of Africans and African stories in the Western media, I had done my market research. So, for example, I have checked all the programs within the BBC, all CNN, and I have never seen any one of them bring programs leveraging or in advertising the amazing things that's happening within the different African communities. Oh, and the worst thing is they always label us like as one country, whereas we are an amazing, brilliant 54 different countries within the continent, right? And I've never seen a West African and East African woman coming together, sharing knowledge, sharing amazing experiences, right? So as an entrepreneur, I have done my market research. So when I was presenting and bringing this idea to the table, I knew I'll be able to sell it, right? And so far, we have in Desta TV, we have over 6 million viewership globally. So we started with the Tigrinya program, and then we grew up, and now we are in the process of signing a contract with an online international platform, which have a market of 180 countries and over 60 million viewership, right? So, but if I haven't done my market research properly, I wouldn't know who my target audience are. I wouldn't know how I'll be able to leverage the data that I have, and therefore I wouldn't be able to set up a successful media company. And this goes back to any kind of entrepreneurship or business that you wanted to do. Market research is the key to a successful entrepreneur or entrepreneurship in that aspect. So the scope of market research covers market research, sales analysis research, consumer research, and advertising research. So the market research process is always problem definition. You identify your problem, you examine the primary and secondary data to that problem that you have, you make analysis of the data, you make recommendation and implementation of the findings. So similar example that I've been giving you, you find your problem, you find your data or marketing research, and you try to marry it. So how are you going to use those data in order to amplify and solve the problem that you have at hand? So small businesses, now that you have identified everything, what is a small business, right? You are an entrepreneur, you're trying to set up your small business, you're going to start from somewhere, right? So most of the time, a lot of entrepreneurs, they start from like having a small business. Yes, thank you, Jess. It's a key, of course. So small business is a business which is independently owned and operated, not dominated in its field of operation, and met certain standard of number of employees or capital. In general, there are two approaches to define a small business: measures of size and economy and control area. So you are an entrepreneur, you are starting, you're trying to solve a problem. The first thing that happens is you start hustling, that, as we call it. I think it's Africans, we always call ourselves hustlers. I'm not sure if that's the correct word to use, but we always try to find a problem and try to solve it. And without us knowing the definition of entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs or the process, everyone is an entrepreneur. And of course, within that spectrum, what is the competitive analysis? So when you enter a market, you have a problem you're trying to solve, but are you sure that this problem hasn't been addressed? What are you bringing to the market differently that you'll be so different that people will be withdrawn to the idea or the problem you're trying to solve within your community? And on that aspect, of course, on a nutshell, and if you have questions, you guys can ask me later. Make sure that your competitive analysis is a widely used approach for developing strategies in many industries. And you have checked your rival among competitive firms. Yes, okay, you can't hear me. What is your bargaining power over the consumers or the market that you're trying to get into? What potential development of subsequent to the product's bargaining power or suppliers are you going to bring to the market so that you'll be outstanding and you'll be able to gain customer trust and obviously loyal customers as a result of that? So as I said, there are different marketing strategies. If we start like mentioning them, we'll be here the whole day, right? But then how are you going to strategize? How are you going to bring on the service or the product that you bring into to the market? How are you going to really strategize so that you'll be successful on bringing the solution that you're actually intended to bring to the table, to the market, and obviously gain clients? So the market penetration, how are you going to do the market penetration? The firm can stay within its base product or services, or its existing marketing. Product development, so once you reach the market, after listening to your customers or their feedback, right, you can still tweak and tweak your products to satisfy your client base, or change your services, right? I'll give you an example. When we first started the Mary Show, we started it within the Eritrean community and focusing and mainly in Tigrinya. And by the time we start growing, we realized that this is not the problem of the Eritrean community only. That is the misrepresentation of, again, the inspirational people, but also a lot of other African communities. So once we realized that, we identified that we need to do our programs in English, right, in order for us to reach a wider audience. And the same as any kind of entrepreneurship, once you hit the market, right, that's when you actually face the real problems, whether you are actually really, really solving your problem or not, by the feedback of your clients. And so you have to know the real deal of marketing and how you can actually leverage that. So depending on the business, it could be only like the market that you are actually operating, or it could be the international market. And when you are looking as an African business to venture out to international market, you have to think about a lot of things. Is this really applicable? Hasn't been done in international market? If it has been done, then you need to find your niche. Why are you so different that when you go globally, the international market would be buying things from you, whether it's a service or a product? Again, market research. All right. And what is your reason for internationalization of your entity? Is it to gain more customers? Is it to get international competitiveness? Is it to represent your country? It depends, but you have to make a very, very thoughtful market research. So there's always a saying called African businesses, whether it's a woman-owned business or a man-owned business, they're always over-mentored and underfunded, right? So you have an idea, you have innovation with how you're going to do the idea and how you're going to solve the problem. You have your market, but you're still a small business of 2-3 people, or actually 1 person or 3 people who's trying to do every little thing by yourself. Because the funding is the problem. It has always been a problem within African businesses. And Elaine would agree with me on this. Africans are over-mentored and underfunded. And this is something we need to work as Africans. How can we finance our businesses ourselves so that we are not dependent on any kind of funding from any person? It's good if you find, but as far as I know, it's super hard to find funding for any emerging businesses, and especially if you're based in Africa, because of all the risks associated that comes within Africa. And one thing as well, main problem is team building, right? You have a small business, but you don't know who do you want to work with. So there is certain things that you really need to identify when it comes to team building, right? So first of all, putting together a team whose members have a different goals is a problem. You have to make sure that when you bring or onboard people, they're aligned with the vision, mission of your company. What do you stand for? The message you want to send, whether you are in a product-given business or service-providing business. It doesn't matter. but what matters is the people that you work with. They play a great role on advocating for you, for the initiative that you're trying to do, for the problem that you're trying to solve. And if your team doesn't believe on anything that you're doing, I mean, just consider it as a failing company, because your team, your people, it means everything, right? So the following are common errors when in team building. So I have stated them on the screen. So if anyone's interested, you can read it through. It's not considering experience and qualification of each member, putting together a team whose members have a different goals, using only insiders in the board of directors. In this example, families. You have to differentiate business and family. And as I always see a problem within my community in Eritrea and a lot of African communities is we try to, we're really, I think it's because of the way we grew up. We always grew up with family, and we always bring on board people, and we never differentiate the difference between businessship and familyship and friendship and etc. Right? So we have to be very smart at making sure that when people come to the table to discuss business, and it's business, and everyone on the team needs to know what they're bringing to the table, but also the transferable skills between people, right? And if someone and one person is feeling entitled to doing businesses and running businesses as they please because they're a family member, it would have a direct and indirect impact on the overall performance of your team, right? So be careful of that. And giving the management team all stock in lieu of salary. And yes, it can happen a lot of time because of their family members. You might not pay them enough, so they might not give the attention and the skill set and the devotion that business requires as a result of them not getting paid enough. So that's something you have to look after when you think of entrepreneurship, doing a business, and creating teams as well. And delegation is a key in entrepreneurship as well, right? With entrepreneurs, I always see this problem of like, it's your baby, so you're always like clinging to it. You can't delegate, and a lot of entrepreneurs find it hard to delegation. But I mean, without delegation, you cannot upscale anything. So you need to learn how to say enough is enough, and I can't do this anymore. And you have to give people the ownership, right? When you give people the ownership, they get motivated, and they feel part of a great part of the company. And you have to really understand the people that you're working with, understand their skill set, understand their their positive, how do I say, what is their the best thing that they bring to the table. So in order for you to leverage that skill set, but also understand their weaknesses as well, so that you know how to support them when they need. And that will create a balanced and healthy relationship within your team. All right. So you have identified your problem. You have brought the innovation or how you are going to tackle the problem. And also, you have addressed the market research. You've done your market research. You have your team. But then how do you grow and manage your problem? Yes, exactly, Kiwia. Thank you. A business is a business, and it should always be separated from family. That's a success. That's a key success. And Jane is saying entrepreneurship is a journey, and taking risks is mostly the best experience. Of course. And so back to our training. How do you manage, the growth and transactions, when you are really looking to upscale your business? So hire new employees can be one part of that. Creating awareness of the new venture, managing early growth of the venture is another. Motivating and leading the team is another. Financial control, managing your cash flow, managing assets, managing cost and profit, and taxes. So, I mean, entrepreneurship, we all want to set up, a business. We want it to be our own bosses. Everybody wants that, right? but nobody talks about the really end-to-end process of entrepreneurship. It have a different stages. So starting from the ideation and innovation stage, right, till the setting up your business strategy, brand identity. As a business, what is your brand? What do people think of you when they first see you? So what do people think of Desta TV, right? What do people think of whatever enterprise or business that you're currently doing? What do people think of that, right? What is the financial management? What does it look like? How are you going to control it? Are you going to do your accounts by yourself, or are you going to hire an accountant? What is the business process? What does it look like? And any kind of improvement that you need to make. Or hiring, performing team, we've already addressed that. Business planning, improvement of products and services, market strategy. How do you actually scale up once you address all of these steps that we've actually mentioned? And then let's say you want to scale up and you don't have enough finances, right? How are you going to pitch this in order to get finance? In order to get finances, right? Or funders. And then what type of source of finances are you going to use? Are you going to use your own money? Are you going to use venture capitals or angel investors, business incubators, government grants and bank loans, debt finances? How are you going to do this? Is the main problem that I identify within African businesses. And as I say, and I always say, is African businesses, owners, women, men, young people, they are over-mentored, they know what to do, right? But they are underfunded, So when it comes to money, everybody is reluctant to provide the finances. So as this is my homework for you guys and all of us as Pan-Africanists, how can we tackle this as Africanists, as global people? How do we know and how can we really tackle the problem? So I hope you have a clear idea of what entrepreneurship and entrepreneur mean. If you have any questions, please feel free to DM me or ask me. This is Mary Magdalene and I'm done speaking. And I would like to answer a few questions that you have. But like I said, please, if you have to take anything with you today, it is the fact that we as Africans and African business owners, how do we know how to tackle the financing resources of our businesses? Hi, Lydia. Hello.
Thank you so much, Mary. It was a wonderful presentation. Great presentation. I mean, you've said quite great stuff here, including how we've selected our team. I think that's one among the common mistakes that we do. Maybe we pick our friends or we feel pity for the people without considering what kind of skills are they bringing on the table. But you've also spoke about understanding that being an entrepreneur is also like you're solving a challenge. So you really need to sit down to really identify why are you doing what you're doing. And I think that's quite interesting. We've got quite a number of comments, but I haven't seen a question. If anyone has a question, you can still write it up in our Q&A. We are going for an interview, and Mary is going to be interviewing Irene Kiwia, a founder for TWAA, who will share her journey of entrepreneurship in tech. And yeah, I think after that we can take a few questions. So you can write me your question here on the Q&A. I'll read after the interview of Mary and Irene. Just let me invite Irene on the stage.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, Meseret is agreeing on the fact that I think everybody is agreeing on the fact that we are over-mentored and underfunded, and absolutely we're over-mentored and needed to create that.
I like what you said. We have to find a way to fund our own, products, as Africans. This is something to take home with. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Disappear.
Thank you. I'm glad. Hey, Irene. How are you doing?
That was amazing.
Thank you. I was actually thinking about you when I was thinking about products and services. And as an African woman, a very successful African woman who managed to create up a platform that is actually, I've seen your platform. I'm really amazed. And I don't know, I think it's the first of its kind, right? Because I've never come across an African platform that have end-to-end process solving of this global problem that we had within the pandemic. So without further ado, this is Irene Kiwia. She's the founder of TWAA and TWAA.
Yes.
Tell us. So I was speaking about entrepreneurship and how we are underfunded but overmentored. Tell me, just give us a little bit background, and then tell us how do you come up with the why TWAA?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. So first of all, that was an incredible presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing it. So TWAA was actually born out of a need that I experienced firsthand over 16 years ago when I graduated from university and started my own business, a PR and media company. I was a university graduate, 24 years old, ready to conquer the world. And I had an opportunity to do some client work in Tanzania that took me to over 8 regions, like upcountry Tanzania. And in the evenings, as I would be preparing for the next day, I had an opportunity to speak to women, girls, my age, some younger, some older, and just to find out what motivated them, what they were passionate about, and what was their ambition. So I did that across the 8 regions. And by the time I went back to Dar es Salaam, where my headquarters companies were, I realized that I was a very, very, I was one of maybe under 5% Tanzanian and probably African girls who had, the privileges or the opportunities that I had, where I graduated from university, set up my own business, and there I was working for corporate Tanzania. But what I saw across the regions was young girls, some my age, some younger, some slightly older, who were living what I've come to term as a per day lifestyle. How do I survive in the next 24 hours? How do I put food on the table? How do I feed my child? Because most of them had already dropped out of school. They were young mothers. They had children when they were still in school, and they were living under poverty. So I found my passion. And when I went back, I set up a corporate social responsibility program under Frontline, the media company, to run mentorship programs, workshops, and to create a platform where we could support the girls I saw in rural Tanzania. And for years, this platform existed. We ran mentorship programs, we ran workshops, at that time we called them bootcamps. Now they're like hubs and accelerators. And it was a very successful project. And around mid 2014-15, when technology was really, really growing, and more people had access to the mobile phone than they had access to clean water, I thought, how can we bridge technology and launch a platform that will solve, the problems that we're looking to solve? Because it's not, women empowerment is not a Tanzanian problem. It's not an African problem. It's a global problem. So that is how TWAA was born. And we wanted to create a platform that was safe, because there's a lot of platforms out there. We use them every day. We all suffer from cyberbullying and, all these different types of issues. So we wanted to create a platform that was safe, a platform also that has a specific user journey that allows for members to look inward as opposed to outward, because we focus so much on checking out what everybody is doing, and we spend very minimal time building ourselves, looking inward and excuse me, 1 second. So we wanted a platform that will allow for members to look inward, but for members to also access productivity tools, access mentors, because I grew my business, I used to get so many messages, on Instagram, on Facebook, young girls asking me questions, as simple questions as how do I decide what to do with my life? How do I choose a career path? How do I? So, and this is mentorship. So how do we make mentorship accessible? So that was one of the things, but also I became very connected into various Pan-African and global women platforms. I still am in WIA, Women in Africa platform, SADC, Women in Business platform, like so many of these, and they're fantastic because they allow for us to speak, to connect. But when you look at the user journey where we meet once a year before COVID, we have a fantastic 5-day seminar. My favorite one was WIA, where we would meet in Marrakesh. I miss those days. And amazing conversations, and everything is fantastic. Then we go back to our countries and we chat a little bit on WhatsApp. We send each other emails, and then, there's a calendar, so the user journey to keep the community alive was just too long, and so a lot of people dropped off. So I wanted to build a platform that allows for a conducive, sustainable community management, where when you are in that community, you have access to everything. You don't need to have all these different touch points. So we launched TWAA rather to create, to add value into women empowerment processes. It can be used by individuals, it can be used by organizations, and so that's what we're continuing to build.
Amazing. So, how hard was it for you? First of all, did you just start it from your own funding, or how hard was it for you to find the right people, the right funding, and how do you explain the process to people who want to do the same thing?
Wow. That's where it gets interesting, because as I wanted to explore technology, I had no idea what technology was. So when people would speak about technology, my mind used to shut off. I'm like, not for me. I don't want to understand it. So I had to understand, okay, so what does it take to build a tech platform? And I looked within my network, and a close friend of mine, Farajan Nyalandu, who runs Shule Direct, had already built a tech platform. So I went to her and said, this is what I want to do. Can you help me? And she helped me build the first pilot for TWAA. And in that process is when I was taken to class, rather, experiencing firsthand, how you come up with a vision and how it's turned into a practical implemented solution. And by the time, within 8 months, when I had the pilot, the first product, and we were testing it, and there were quite a bit of issues, it hit me that you cannot really outsource something like that. You need to have internal capabilities, because tech is not something that is off the shelf. It's built, you take it, and then that's it. There has to be a continuous. Yes, there has to be a continuous support, because it's a continuous evolution of understanding how your users are using it, what are the challenges, how are you, so it's a long term. It's not in isolation. So then I said, okay, let me look for a tech team, and I looked within Tanzania. It was very challenging because first of all, I couldn't afford to hire a full-time team. I didn't have any funding, and then I didn't even have the knowledge to say I can do this on my own. So that journey brought me to Kenya rather. And in Kenya, I found 2 partners. One was running a small tech company, and another was looking to build tech solutions. So we said, let's get together and build a lab where we build solutions, starting with our own solutions. But because we've seen a need for tech solutions that are sustainable, scalable, and of good quality, we will be piloting a venture building model to build tech solutions for entrepreneurs across Africa, entrepreneurs like us who had great ideas, needed to solve something, but didn't know where to start. So Ada Labs was launched to solve that. And in the 1.5 years that Ada Labs has existed, we have built 15 companies, TWAA being one of the products under the lab. We're in 7 markets, and we're looking to build 300 companies by 2025. And my personal vision within the bigger vision is to make sure that half of the companies we build within Ada Labs are female focused and are also solving female issues. So
Amazing.
That's how I managed to get it done, by partnering with people who shared a similar vision and allowing ourselves to use our combined resources, our combined knowledge, our combined networks to make it happen.
Smart. I love that. I love that. Collaboration is everything. With the amazing Elaine, guys. If you don't know Elaine, make sure you know her. She's the woman behind this amazing Pan-African Tech Foundation organization. We always talk about collaboration and how we need to collaborate as Africans, especially making sure that, hi Lydia, I think we're running out of time maybe, making sure that, we are the backbone of each other, and we do not want to, waste time or energy on opportunities because we don't know how to connect between each other. So yeah, Irene is actually, so if anyone wants to learn more about the site, it's Irene is texting you guys on the chat box. So we love, oh yeah, you're getting a lot of feedback, Irene, by the way. Jeffrey is saying, I love the energy. So I would give, in order to make it very interactive, we're gonna give chances to the people within the conference today to ask you questions as well, besides my questions. So here's my problem then, Irene. You were very lucky to find people who would have the same vision and mission and that align within your spectrum, right? To find that help that you need. So, but I know a lot of African women that find it super hard to find funding, How do we go about it? What is your take? What is your feedback? What is your observation around it? And how can we change that as Africans? I mean, think about the remittance industry, right? We are the biggest on that one. How can we support our own businesses? Like, can we put funds as Africans together and do that? I mean, what is your take on that?
Thank you. That's a very, very big question, and there's so many ways to go about it. But I will just talk from what's on the reality. So there is a lot of money in Africa, right? And it's not packed in the same way money from Europe or the US is, in terms of, it's not that we have a lot of VC firms, but our culture in itself is settled around the informal sector, right? And when you look at the informal sector and the way it's structured in Africa, there's what is called community savings groups, where people save. They save and they lend to each other. Unfortunately, this particular practice has not really been scaled, right? And because it's not been scaled, it's sustained economies, but it's not really transformed them. So that is one opportunity. So we have this saving culture that is offline, that if it is connected to opportunities that are sustainable, that can build the investments that people saving can tap into, that is one way to look at it. So structuring our access to fund in a way that is relevant, and relatable to our practices and culture. But we also have this mindset where when people have money, middle class, when move to the middle class and upper class, when they think about investment, they think about things they can touch, feel, and look at. So we invest a lot in land, we invest a lot in real estate. So and when people think about businesses, they want to be a part and parcel of that business. So they invest in their own businesses. They don't really look at investing in others as something that is of potential. So we need to change that. Yeah, and that is why the NGO investment network on the continent is not growing and it's not thriving, because of how our mindsets are. And I know a lot of people who are creating a lot of awareness around it. And as we continue to see businesses becoming successful, that will change. But also there's an issue of policy and regulation, where there is the model has not settled in across our leaderships. So there's not really the right environments in so many different sectors to create a conducive setup for local investment, even for foreign investment in some countries, where investors do not, they can thrive in the African political setup. So there's issues of regulations and policy, but it is changing. And I always say that in the absence of access to that lump sum, we need to focus. My advice to entrepreneurs is focusing in creating value, creating that initial value. Because if you come to me and you're just telling me about this idea, I'm not seeing you putting in your sweat equity. I'm not seeing you beating the odds and to create that first value, so that I can say, oh, you've managed to do this, and I'm able to now see that vision for me to put in my limited resources. Or yes, yes. So you need to create that value through collaboration, through using your networks, being innovative around building that value is also very important.
Yeah, I cannot agree more. So
I think we need to wrap up, please.
Yes,
Sorry.
Sure. This is a so if anyone have a question for Irene, please feel free to put it. Otherwise, it's all encouragement. Irene, I hope you can see the chat. Thank you so much. If anyone have any questions in regards to entrepreneurship, you can directly ask me or ask Irene in our networking session. Thank you so much. And Lydia, over to you. Thank you, Irene, as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, that was quite an amazing interview. It's really nice. Irene, thank you so much for really sharing your journey of entrepreneurship in tech. I think we've got really nice takeaways on how we can start such products and services, but also how can we start funding our own products. And you spoke about partnerships. So maybe instead of starting something on your own, why don't you partner with other people, and then you establish it together. I'm not sure if we have any questions so far, but all I can see are great comments, amazing, wonderful work for Irene and for you, Mary. So as for now, we will catch up with Irene again after the short break. She'll be here and she'll be leading a panel of women leaders. So we're still having her here, but for now we need to take a break. And let me just explain, when we take a break, you're taken to your screen, and then you will see boxes, which we call them tables, written in different names. There's TWAA, there's Panda, there's blockchain, there are many others there. There's PAT, yes, just like that. Yeah, so when you get there, just click the one that you want. There's a button written join. So once you click join, you've joined one of the table, and you can join as many tables as you want. All you have to do is join, leave, and then join the other one. We're taking a break for 10 minutes. But before we do, I want to really know if you really guys understood what Irene shared and Mary shared. If you really understood, can you please give me an emoji of maybe a clap, you know? Yes. If you were inspired, give me an emoji of love. And if you are excited, give me an emoji of celebration. Yeah.
Celebration.
All right. Yeah, like this one. Yes. for East Africa Bootcamp, Women in Tech for Techpreneurship series. We've had a couple of sessions, and after break, we'll have a couple of panels. So join us after 10 minutes, and all the best.
Brilliant. This is a good one. Okay. Yeah. Lydia, are you back?
I'm trying to go to my
Okay. Lydia, we can hear you now.